out of the session now. And we have today, I'll just acknowledge our partners as well: Royal Life Saving Society Australia, Commercial Aquatics Australia, OTM Sport and Leisure Planning Group, YMCA Victoria, the Victoria State Government Health and Human Services Department, Belgravia Leisure, Cleaning Melbourne, VACA, Align Leisure, Watering and Water, Accredited Facilities, EcoSave, and Western Leisure Services. Today we have a session on customer-focused innovation. We've got Hannah Batista from YMCA Victoria. Hannah oversees the customer service projects across the YMCA and has a depth and breadth of experience across marketing, communications, customer experience, going back a number of years. We're very lucky to have Hannah today. Just to give you, before I hand over to Hannah, the upcoming webinars in the fitness stream, we have member segmentation, how to engage with different people, with Rachel Engelhardt next week. The following week, promoting you and your brand on LinkedIn from Mass Reach, Richard Tutunji, sorry. We have gym design ideas for your club, and we have the future of facility design with Brett Tipros of Warren and Mahoney Architects. So Brett has designed a number of prominent facilities, including Watermark. I'm sort of having a think here. He's doing currently the Northcote redevelopment. Has done a number of very large projects, and I think he was involved in MSAC at the time. So a wealth of experience there as well. Hannah, I might hand over to you if you want to just unmute yourself and share your screen. Welcome.
Hi. I'll turn my camera on briefly just to say hi to everyone while I pull my screen up as well. Hope everybody's enjoying their Friday. Looking forward to hopefully a nice sunny weekend. All right. Should have my screen up now. So I'm just going to turn my camera off. If you've got questions, feel free to ask them in the chat throughout. We might wait until the end when I've finished presenting to chat through the questions. Happy to answer anything then. It shouldn't go for too long, hopefully only around 20 minutes or so, and hopefully you can all hear me okay. So thanks for having me here today to talk about customer-focused innovation. Really excited to be a part of this talking series. It's been a really great initiative and a great innovation in itself, so well done to everybody involved. Firstly, just a little bit about me. As RJ mentioned, I've worked with the Y here in Victoria for a while now. So I've been with the Y for over the last 10 years, and my current role as Product Innovation Manager focuses really on driving customer insights into our business to ensure that both our strategic plans and our operational plans and activities, that everything we do, the customer is at the heart of it. They have been at the heart of it for the last 175 years that the Y's been around, and we really want to make sure that we keep the customers at the heart of what we do so that we're around for another 175 years. And a little bit about the Y. So for those who may not be too familiar with us, we exist in over 500 communities around Australia, which is pretty phenomenal, offering everything from gyms, swimming lessons, early learning, school holiday programs, camps, sports, disability and youth services, leadership programs, and lots more. So our customer base is really broad. We offer services across all of people's life stages. And whilst what we do might differ and look different in different communities and even around the world in terms of what the Y offers globally, everything we do is anchored in our belief in the power of inspired young people. So customer-focused innovation. You can't have customer-focused innovation without having a deeply empathetic understanding of your customer needs and wants. So this is what I thought I would unpack with you today. Starting with, why deeply empathetic? Being customer-led is good, but being customer-centric is great, and it's something quite different altogether. When we're just customer-led, what we design and deliver can be reactive and sometimes ineffective. Customers don't always end up doing as they say. Sometimes they don't even know what they want. Take Uber, for example. I personally didn't even know that I wanted or needed it until it was in my life, and now I can't live without it. Being customer-centric, on the other hand, means that what you are doing is grounded in a deeply empathetic understanding of your customer needs and wants, which grants you the freedom to make the unexpected and often unasked for leaps forward that will lead to long-term success. So where do trends come from? Well, trends emerge as innovations address people's basic human needs and wants in novel ways. Consumer or customer trends are new manifestations among people, so either in behaviour, attitude or expectation of a fundamental human need, want or desire. How trends emerge relies on three different elements: change, human nature, and innovations which create new expectations. So the first element, change. Even before all of this happened, the world was changing around us all the time. So technological change, social change, mindset changes, and so on. By occasionally and intentionally stopping and taking note and interpreting what is going on in both our internal, so within our own businesses or within our industry, and our external environments, what's going on more broadly around the world, we can better understand how these changes will affect us in the future. Keeping an eye on what's going on outside of your industry and outside of your immediate environments ensures that you don't become insulated in your subject matter expertise or be blindsided from disruptions that may come from completely outside of your own industry. If we do not scan the changes going on around us, we risk envisioning, mapping, and creating futures that look much like today, which just isn't the reality. Scanning helps broaden our thinking, and it tears down barriers that prevent us from imagining new opportunities or challenging the status quo. On the topic of change, whilst it might look like a lot has changed over time from one side of the screen to the other, on the other hand, the people in it haven't changed much at all. The human behaviours and human nature does not change that much over time. Human beings are motivated by a set of core needs and wants, things like safety, security, the desire for information, to be valued, to feel excitement, and much more. These are pretty stable over time too, and they don't change often. Consumer trends emerge when external change unlocks new ways of serving these age-old human needs and wants. These age-old human needs and wants are things like the desire to live and be treated authentically, to feel like you belong, to be able to collaborate, to be able to connect with each other and with your community, to have control, to have convenience in your life, to be treated with empathy, to be entertained, to be treated fairly, to be able to have a sense of identity, however you choose, to show loyalty where you want to place it, to have peace of mind, to be able to impact the world positively, to protect your own privacy, to be relevant, to have security, to be able to express yourself, to be able to improve yourself, to be able to enjoy the simplicities of life, to have social status and to feel supported. And innovations act as signals of these changes. Innovation is the creation of a viable new offering. So innovation doesn't have to always involve invention, but it does require, most importantly, this deep understanding of whether your customers need or desire that invention and how you can work with other partners potentially deliver it and how it will pay for itself over time. Simply put, innovations have to return value to our customers and therefore to us as a business. Very little is truly new. Most innovations are based on previous advances, such as tech. They don't have to be new to the world, but they can be new to your market, your industry, or to your customers. Innovations should be about more than just your products. They can encompass new ways of doing business, of making money, new systems of products and services, or even new forms of engagement between your business and your customers. So innovations are the signals of change, and they give rise to new expectations. We can see these new expectations emerging when we look at game-changing innovations from established brands and disruptive startups. Another way of thinking about this is that when we're looking at innovations that are creating new consumer expectations, these newly emerged expectations become expectation gaps between what customers now expect and what they actually get across the rest of the consumer arena. Identifying expectation gaps is the holy grail of understanding trends, as it will present you with compelling innovation opportunities. Time and again, the superstar brands, the ones that seem to point in the direction of future consumerism, are creators of these expectation gaps. Think the likes of Nike, Airbnb, Uber, WhatsApp. I want to take a second to talk about Kodak. This is a common case study when it comes to talking on the topic of innovation. Now, Kodak's demise wasn't as a result of its technology. It was because they fixated on solving the wrong problem. Kodak's business problem was they needed to sell more film. and they stuck with what they had always done and arguably had always done really well. But their customers had a different problem. Their customers' problem was they wanted to capture memories. So as Kodak kept trying to sell them film and other companies and customers discovered new, better ways of evolving to meet that customer need around creating memories, Kodak continued down a path that their customers were no longer on with them. If Kodak had stayed focused on continually evolving to solve their customers' problem, they probably would have been the ones to come up with Instagram. Focusing on what you deliver and how you deliver at the expense of losing sight of why you deliver it, aka what customer problem or need does what you provide solve for them, can lead you down a path where you are no longer relevant to customers. And your customers will always take the path of least resistance. So after everything that has happened recently, in particular for our aquatics and health and recreation services at the Y, we've bunkered down and focused our efforts on understanding the customer. Suddenly finding ourselves disconnected from them in person, we've taken steps to ensure we maintain a really deeply empathetic understanding of what their customer needs are, what they want, how they've changed and evolved during this time, and what that means for us looking to re-engage them into the future. Our personal approach to this has been a strategic research project with our expert research partners, with both a qualitative, which is in-depth kind of focus online group sessions, and quantitative, which is where we look at representative data that validates the evidence. We've been really carefully timed in our approach to this because we've got to be very sensitive and empathetic to what's going on in our customers' lives right now. This combined with our usual scanning of what's going on in our business, keeping in touch with our partners throughout industry and our local government partners, and looking at what's going on externally and in other industries, helps us understand where our customers have been beforehand, where they're at through this particular phase, and what that might mean for us as we move forward into the future. So, change. Like we talked about, human beings are motivated by a set core of needs and wants, which don't change that much, if at all, over time. But the world changes around us all the time, and none more so than this period that we've been going through and are still going through. Particularly when you think about the literal change of having people physically in our facilities and then suddenly disconnected from them. Whilst basic human wants and needs do remain the same, research is showing that for Australians, shifts in values has been significant. So whilst people still have the same set of values, certain ones have become much more important than others. And we know that for our customers, COVID-19 has changed everything for a lot of people. They are genuinely scared and concerned about many different issues. In particular, their own safety. So they're worried about their own health and safety first and foremost. They're worried about the safety of others and the impact that their actions will have on others in the community. And the other major thing that they're worried about is their financial security. There has been a real return to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, with the values from the base of the pyramid really rising and those at the top having fallen. The biggest rising values paint a picture of self-survival and protection, with safety and our ability to live how we want to, independently, more important than ever, as many of these freedoms have either been restricted or taken away. So things like resourcefulness have really grown in significance, as has resilience, independence, and safety has become the number one value, the highest thing of importance to people. And this same goes for our people, so our staff and our employees that work in our business as well. The size of these shifts is bigger than what we've ever seen in our lifetimes, and this crisis is reshaping what our customers and our people value. Innovations are signals of these changes. Our research tells us what we've all been experiencing, so technological and online transformation in all of our lives, but the extent to which this is impacting our customers' attitudes, behaviours, and future engagement with our programs and services is what is vital to understand. Many have moved their entire lives online. This has opened them up to new products, brands, and services, and new ways of meeting needs that we potentially met before. Many have adopted new technology solutions such as wearable tech, online classes, nutrition plans, food shopping, deliveries, you name it. Free digital content has formed new connections and new competition for all of us in this industry. People have transitioned a lot and they're looking for online solutions to potentially supplement their lives ongoing. So of these shifts and changes, what's going to stick around? Well, people have really different, wildly polarizing opinions, and they're really on very opposite ends of the spectrum. Some people feel like not a lot's changed for them at all. They might have picked up new routines, or they feel like they've maintained their existing routines, and they'll go back to normal as quickly as possible. There are those, though, that have adopted new habits, routines, that they've not only enjoyed, but they actually might find that they're more convenient for them as well and can see themselves doing it long term. And then there are also people that are incredibly anxious about the situation. There's a lot of fear out there still. And they're feeling nervous about coming back to spaces where there's high traffics of people and a high volume chance of interacting with other people. So some of the big shifts in behaviour that they want to keep in particular, and no surprises probably here, it's food, first and foremost, as well as technology. So there's been lots of new foods entering into people's lives. They felt like they've been eating healthier. They've created new shopping behaviours, new cooking behaviours. There's been a lot of discovery that's gone on in that space, and they're things that people actually want to keep beyond this period in their lives. And they've also found new ways of exercising and meeting their health and wellness needs. Some of these ways are seen as potentially more convenient than what they were doing beforehand. So they're keen to continue to enjoy the benefits that they've enjoyed, such as added convenience or more time back in their day. For some, this has been a return to simplicity as well, the ability to be outdoors, particularly with their family, and to be able to do things together with their family. Or it might have been investing in their own equipment and tools to do the activities themselves. And for others, it's been discovering the conveniences of these online and digital solutions that have become available, or perhaps were already there and they just had no reason to engage with them. So expectation gaps. What are the ways that we need to meet these needs, these new needs that have evolved and as we come out of this period? And they aren't just around the products and services that we're experts in. They're also anchored around the experiences that people have had throughout this time when engaging with other brands and services. Coles and Woolworths are a really great example of a brand and organisation that a lot of people have been engaging with frequently throughout this time, and are really looking to enjoy the same elements of safety and control that they've seen in those environments as they come back to other physical environments as they reopen. Customers have really high expectations, and they're not necessarily willing to compromise on the experiences that they're after. Much like not wanting to go to your favourite cafe if they're unable to serve you coffee, they want to be able to come back to their brands and facilities and services that they usually engage with to do what they're fundamentally there to do. So with restrictions still potentially in place for the future, particularly in Victoria, they're considering whether they'll go back straight away if they can't do what they're fundamentally going to go and do. As we reopen facilities and services, there are some key concerns and queries that customers have, and communicating how you're going to respond to them is going to be really vital. Not only do they have new needs and desires from the changes in attitudes, behaviours and innovations that they've experienced during this time, but companies outside of our industry, like Coles and Woolworths, or even their local cafes, have created expectations for our customers as they come back and engage with our services in our physical spaces. So back to Kodak and solving the right problems as we look to re-engage and reactivate our health and wellbeing products, programs and services. Staying focused on the why people came to you before and knowing what's changed for your customers, their why might have changed, for example, and understanding the new ways you might be able to meet their needs given where they are at will be vital. David Matten from Trend Watching Global, which is a great source that I can highly recommend, articulated it well this week. Changes in what people value opens up space for the new ideas and businesses, new industries as yet unimagined. As difficult as this crisis is, and we should never forget the human cost of this economic disruption, this is a moment that asks us to imagine what is and what can be next. The idea that times of crisis accelerate waves of creative ideas is not new. A reminder for all of us is that businesses born amid the 2008 financial crisis were the likes of Uber, WhatsApp, Pinterest, Airbnb, just to name a few. So whilst it might seem really challenging as we come out of this time and look to re-engage with our customers and bring our people back into our businesses after what has been a tremendous jolt to all of our lives, there is some really great opportunities for us to tap into with the change and evolution that's happened for our customers as well. So how will you look into what's changed or not for your customers? And what other innovations are going on around you and your customers that not only signal these changes, but are creating new expectations for your customers? And how will you respond to meeting their ever-evolving wants and needs? That's it from me for today, but I'm happy to answer questions. I'm not sure if RJ is still on the line. Hi, RJ.
I'm still here. It was that was great. I think it was really interesting. I like thinking about it in the context of COVID-19. I read a great article last night from Harvard Business Review. I've just dropped it in the comments there, and it's pretty much just talking exactly about what you were talking about, consumer trends, and how that's going to change following, well, sort of in our post-pandemic world. And yeah, it pretty much exactly aligns with what you're saying.
That's good to know.
with the big winners being cooking from home, that there's the resurgence in cooking, and so I would posit, if I was a futurist, I would say for leisure centers that if you can get into that game, recipes and celebritizing, sort of merging with Simon Weatherall's presentation. If you can celebritize one of your, staff members that happens to be a great chef and get that on your social media and whatever else, and or provide solutions to that, like I know there's a lot of businesses already doing, like muscle meals and all that kind of stuff that deliver healthy food to your house. But, in the fitness space, I think this is going to be a bit of a game changer, a bit of a disruptor who can integrate that into their programming and their service offering. And then the other one is density. Big one in that article, density, is that the expectation will be that we de-densify, and we have key metrics in this industry around members per square meter, and where we used to say, have 5 to 8 members per square meter, fantastic. 10's too many. That sweet spot needs to move down. And then how do you maintain your income or increase your income in a lower density space? So it's gonna be very interesting times ahead. What do you think going into leisure centers is going to look like in the future, Hannah?
Well, I think it's going to need and look different for different people, and that's where really understanding what your core customer base, what their wants and needs are, is really important, because that will look different for different businesses depending on what your value prop is, what you're there to do, and how you're there to serve them, and what you're set up to do best as well. So, look, certainly for large scale facilities and thinking about the restrictions, particularly around density and needing to manage social distancing and things as we look to reopen while these restrictions are still in place. It's a really tough one to tackle. And I think looking at the glass, half full where we can around, whilst there are some real challenges, there's also some potential opportunities, like you were talking about with the heightened enjoyment and focus on food from people at the moment too. There's potentially other ways we can look to plug gaps where we might, financially have some gaps because of the implications of other things going on. So looking at some of those, dialing up maybe some of the stuff that you do before that's, got heightened levels of importance on it, or looking at, unique partnerships that maybe didn't seem relevant or viable beforehand, suddenly become apparent now. There's a lot of opportunity in this as well, I think, is the crux of it. So it's going to be interesting, that's for sure.
Definitely, yeah. What if you were to look into the crystal ball? I mean, Simon spoke a lot about this, and I think Adam Luscombe as well from The Wire. He was on the show on Tuesday with Carolyn, and they were talking about the experience out in South Australia. Adam, I think Adam's right on the money on this too. Is that he used the example of, so I don't know if anyone's been out to South Australia Aquatic and Leisure Centre, or to Adelaide and to the Marion Shopping Centre, but you've kind of got like a Chadstone or a High Point, and attached to or right next door to the mall, you've got like an MSAC, and so it's a really great little hub there. But obviously, it's been really seriously impacted by, like everyone, by the pandemic, and where you have spaces with a lot of people coming in, people, a lot of safety conscious people would be avoiding those places. So he talked about how there's a really like high end pub inside the shopping center, the Waratah pub, I believe it is, and how they normally do like a 6-course meal, and no one's coming in for a 6-course meal at the moment. So they started doing a 6-course meal by delivery, which I know it doesn't sound that innovative, but the view was that if they could become a trusted provider and still connect with people during the time, even if it, wasn't a business model that, would survive ongoing. It was about, as soon as the doors start to reopen again, that people that had a Sunday tradition of going to the Waratah pub for a Sunday roast or whatever it was would still order that, and then as soon as the doors reopen, they'd come back to that. So it's about really just that retention piece, and I think he's on the money. I think that a lot of organizations launched fitness from home and things like that. It's a little bit harder with aquatics. Obviously, I've seen some interesting stuff from even from our organization as well about water, swimming and water safety from home, and we're doing a lot of water safety from home programs at the moment, but you need to maintain that link with people and get them back to the facility if the facility model is to survive. So it's a really interesting space, your space. What do you think people walking into a facility are going to expect to see now in this pandemic? If you're empathy mapping their journey through a facility, what does it look like?
I think they expect to see a lot of what they've seen, happening in retail spaces like Coles and Woolworths, just to use that example again, because to an extent, people have become a bit familiar with what's going on in those retail environments. And so that familiarity and that comfort that they've, to an extent have in going into those spaces, they will transfer over coming into other, industries, physical spaces as well. That's certainly something that we're hearing from our customers and that our research partners are hearing from consumers in general across Australia. And I think that comes back to, trust, like you were talking about before. So there's a level of trust that, retailers like Coles and Woolworths have, really put some significant things in place to protect, the facility, but their people within the facility or the space, so their staff, but also the visitors and the patrons coming into that space as well. And I think they're the three elements that people expect to very visually see, as soon as they walk into a space, what's been put in place. So they can see, that there's additional signage and markings around the floor. I mean, these things sound very basic, and we all know that we need to put them in place, just from a best practice, but also a requirement perspective. But our customers actually really need to see what's been put in place and the additional measures that are being put in place as well. And people might come back through the doors, or they're likely to come back through the doors for quite sort of emotional reasons, wanting to get back to potentially their routine beforehand, or to come back in and connect with their facility, or the people that they usually engage with through those programs and services. But it'll come down to their very kind of practical experience that they have when they come back through the doors, as to how comfortable and quickly they'll continually re-engage from there. So a lot of us have walked potentially into a cafe, for example, where they might be controlling the kind of social distancing and things really well. And others, might have experienced some other spaces where you go in and you think, oh, hang on, like everybody here doesn't seem to be doing the right thing and nobody's really doing anything about it. Those kinds of reflections and the nervousness that can come with that will apply with our spaces as well. So we need to be really hyper-conscious around really reassuring and making our customers feel supported when they come back into those spaces, and that they can clearly visually see all of the additional measures that are in place.
I'm just having all these little flashbacks to, you're a customer or you're a manager of a facility, and your customer sees the two lifeguards talking to each other or something, or not watching the water, and that nervousness that follows, where that nervousness might have been, I hope they're watching those kids over there. Now it's the situation is, the panic if someone sneezes. It's that whole, if someone sneezes in an elevator or whatever, everyone's sort of now fearful for their own safety. Which is a really interesting space. I wonder how, organizations that have a lot of casual employees and things like that, sort of shifting gears here a little bit. If you're a casual employee, I think back to my, journey through the industry, and, you had a little bit of a sniffle or a bit of a headache or whatever it was, sore throat, you'd probably push through and go to work because, one, you didn't want to let your manager down, ringing them at 5 a.m. and saying, I'm not well, I can't come into work. Two, you probably needed the money. So I wonder how the industry is going to adapt to that. And, will they have mechanisms in place to support staff that aren't feeling well? I think we all say that, if you're not feeling well, don't come to work. But also, how are they practically doing that? How are they incentivizing that behavior? So that's one piece that I'll throw out there. The other one is, people want a level of certainty. So even going into Coles and Woolies, you can walk through and you can see the people stacking shelves are all, standing next to each other, or consumers are standing next to each other, and you're thinking, well, that's not really physical distancing, and that drives a bit of a question mark. What they're doing in the States and things like that. Some places you order your groceries on an app, and then you go and drive by, and it's packed into a box for you, and you pick it up as you drive by. The Whole Foods and those types of places there. It hasn't happened here. I know, Adam, in South Australia, you book a time to do your lap swimming. So you book in on an app and you get an hour VIP service swimming laps. I think that's amazing. How do you think that would be applied to, visiting the gym? Do you think we'll get to a place where people will book a time? I'm going to book, 10 minutes on the squat rack, followed by 15 minutes on the treadmill, followed by do you think people will have to book their times and sort of plot that out a little bit more, or how do you think that's going to practically work?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, and I think whether it gets down to that granular level of booking equipment or not, and I think it's something that we're all going to have to navigate as we reopen. I think we'll open, with our best laid plans in place, but there'll be an element of having to really understand as we reopen, what does work and what doesn't, because a lot of these will be new practices and procedures that, neither us nor our customers will be particularly familiar with. And I think that's where, like you've mentioned, we can look to what they are experiencing in, smooth contactless delivery or other contactless environments, for example, and take learnings from what does seem to be working really well for both the business and the customer in those environments and apply those learnings to us. So we certainly will keep on exploring what that needs to look like, across our entire business, but really at a local level as well, in terms of what will work for that local facility, and the staff and things there. And it's a huge, big learning curve for our staff and our people coming back too. And this idea of needing to look after our own health and safety and worried about the implications of others, that our actions have on others, that our customers have, is the same for our staff and our people too, right? We're all just humans at the end of the day. And our people are absolutely vital to us to deliver our products and services and the ideal experience to our customers. So a huge amount of focus and effort needs to go into helping them feel supported as well, as we reopen our doors and have these new practices and things in place. And leveraging, technology and things where we can to really help support those new processes and procedures being as smooth and efficient as possible for everyone.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. And you mentioned granularity, and we are talking about granular problems really, aren't we? Like when at the end of the day, the person coming to the leisure center or the gym, they are looking for, they want to come in and, have their workout, use the equipment that they like, do the exercises they want to do, or the class that they want to do, or whatever it is. But they are going to be looking for that to be safe, against, yeah, exactly like you said, against the community expectation or the community norm that they've seen in other businesses that have remained open throughout the period.
And they don't want to be disappointed, right, to come in and then not be able to use or do the thing that they're there to do because of, either needing to wait or limitations that are in place. So, it's one thing to be able to reopen under, limitations. It's then another thing to then meet the needs of the customers that are coming through the door. Because, a lot of people have different things that they would specifically like to come in and do, specific equipment that they like using, and they're not always open to trying out something new or doing something different if it's not available. So that's certainly something for us to think about, in terms of helping support them to potentially reinvent their goals or help reinvent the ways that they meet those goals throughout this period until we can go back to whatever our new normal is.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking about your challenges. You guys manage over 49 council-owned facilities, and then probably another 20 or so King Swims, and so on and so forth, as well as a number of community centers, and childcare, and the amount of the depth and breadth of your operations is significant. And camps, like there's a lot of risk and adaptation that needs to happen. I think, and I'm not just thinking about you guys, but the industry as a whole. And I think that there's going to have to be an empowerment of people at the site to, I like that Albert Einstein quote you had, where you define the problem for 19 days before you solve it. Then there's going to have to be a lot of customer empathy mapping at the journey. What would you expect if you were a customer? How is that practically going to work? How are you going to apply safe principles to it, as well as convenience? How are you going to make it so that the safety and the convenience go hand in hand? And I think you're so spot on there that it's going to take a lot of thinking at a local level, and then the resources and the empowerment to be able to see that through. And it's a significant challenge. So I'm sort of, I think it's a good thing in the long run. I think it's going to be great in terms of resilience and adaptability and agility and all of those types of things. I think there's some really big risks as well. And it only takes, one big facility to be a Cedar Meats type story. And I'm hoping that, with a lot of businesses across multiple sectors all opening up at once, there'll be that impacts will be sort of limited from a reputational perspective due to the fact that there's probably going to be a lot of those types of stories. But exactly. There's a lot of
that's why safety, like at the end of the day, first and foremost, we know that's what matters to customers, and that's what matters to us, the safety of everybody. So convenience and all of those things are really important, like you say, but given the current environment and given the risks involved, it's, safety is just paramount. And that's what everybody wants and needs as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There hasn't been any questions coming through the chat bar. I'm sort of taking the indulgence of just asking you questions and sort of picking your brain and your expertise area, Hannah. So I appreciate you indulging me. And if anyone's got a question, I'd love for you to drop that in about how, if you've got a business problem or you're thinking about your own organization, your own business, how you might, go about a customer empathy, process, or how you might design things around your customer needs and expectations in light of changing values. I might ask you as well, Hannah, that slide sort of went past me really quickly. I was looking down in the small print at the bottom, the data source for that shift in consumer values. Where did you pull that one from? That was the one where it was, this was 10% change from last year. Based around, I think safety was the top one now, and it used to be, further down the list.
Yeah, so check out the COVID-19 Brand Navigator by research companies The Lab and Nature. They're both key partners of ours, and they've been working on specific research projects with us, but have also been offering some really amazing, freely publicly available research and consumer insights around consumer and some brand tracking behaviour across all of Australia. So yeah, if you Google COVID-19 Brand Navigator and look for it by The Lab and Nature, you'll be able to find it.
That's brilliant. I absolutely will. I think
COVID Innovations is another really great website being offered freely by Trend Watching, which is usually a paid subscription service as well.
Okay, and just I'll throw another one out there. I read Harvard Business Review. Every article that they have on COVID-19 or coronavirus is free right now as well, and that's a great resource in terms of thinking strategically. I've shared 2 articles in the comments. I don't know, Hannah, if you've got anything that you'd point people to other than the COVID Innovations and the COVID-19 Brand Navigator. I think absolutely people need to be thinking about this because your job might depend on it. It's as simple as that. If we don't have customers coming into facilities, we don't have a viable industry. So we have to get this piece right. I think it's a really important piece. Obviously, you're doing very good work in the space, Hannah, for the Y, and for all of those facilities. I'm sure other organizations have that as well. My concern is for some of the more sort of regional facilities that may not have the ratepayer base, if they're council owned and operated, to sort of support all of that innovation and those roles. But certainly anyone listening, and this recording will be up on our webpage. Hopefully they tap into these resources that you've shared. I think maybe if there's no questions, I might sort of just say thank you and leave it there, Hannah. But on behalf of Fitness Australia and Lifesaving Victoria, thank you so much for coming on the show. Oh, we actually have someone asking a question. There's one just popped through. Maybe we will answer that one, if that's okay. So we've got. I can't seem to get answers from anywhere. Do we have any updates for lifeguard quals? Okay. It's not really customer focused innovation. Apologies, Hannah. Anyways, Mandy, if you send me an email, assessments@lsv.com.au, I will get back to you. But essentially, July 1st is the date. So July 1st is the date. That's being reviewed on the 11th of June by the National Aquatic Industry Safety Committee, and you'll be able to. There'll be more information then. Anyways, thank you so much, Hannah. It's been great having you. Look forward to having you in the flesh at some stage, at some sort of event when we can get events back up and running. Hopefully we get a Pool Safety Summit appearance or something like that. It would be great to have you back. And thank you very much, everyone who listened in.
Thank you.